Hello kiddies, hope you're having a lovely one. Your Uncle Spit is fresh back from the Motorola launch in New York. I say fresh back, I literally landed about 3 hours ago at Heathrow after what felt like a full friggin' day of travelling, so I certainly smell anything but fresh. Like basically imagine if Oscar the Grouch did his own cologne. That's pretty much my aroma right now. The second I walked in here, the cats absolutely bolted out of their flap. So I'm knackered and I undoubtedly smell like week-old roadkill. You probably see wafty lines coming off me. So what better time to bang on about an upcoming mid-range OnePlus smartphone? It's all good though, because as usual I stocked up on the usual American pharmaceuticals. So I'm actually feeling pretty good, pepped up, ready for action. Actually surprisingly horny too, because I haven't actually bothered to suss out any potential side effects of these bad boys, so apologies if I start slurring halfway through the video or my arms just suddenly fall off. Techspert Weekly! So this summer we should see a couple of compelling new mid-range phones hit the UK, one of the biggest being OnePlus's much-awaited Nord 4. OnePlus is expected to launch the new Nord sometime in July, and it should actually come straight to the UK this time instead of not really bothering for a couple of months because of complicated legal proceedings, which is nice. Once again, this Nord is a bit of a biggin, sticking with that mighty 6.74-inch screen. And this sounds like pretty much the same display tech as the Nord 3. We're talking a flat 1.5K AMOLED panel, and although it's not LTPO tech, the refresh will rise to 120Hz for supported apps. It sounds like one of the biggest changes for this generation though is the performance. OnePlus is actually swapping to Qualcomm from MediaTek and is going with the Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 3, if those rumours are to be believed. And this Plus model is a significantly upgraded version of the regular 7 Gen 3, which boasts more processing grunt and a boost to the memory bandwidth, plus an even burlier Adreno GPU. Woof. And the difference between the Snapdragon 7 Gen 3 and the fresh new 7 Plus Gen 3 is supposed to be pretty big, kind of similar to when Prince Adam transforms into He-Man. You know, the Prince, fair play, fairly burly dude, but he's essentially just a bro with hair who lifts, whereas He-Man, now he has the power. Although now I come to think of it, like, did he actually really have any powers? Like, what difference did transforming into He-Man actually make, other than swapping his already dodgy outfit for another one that's even more likely to put him on the Project U-Tree watch list? I mean, not even Dolph Lundgren could carry that one off. The Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 3 has only been stuffed inside of one phone that's actually launched so far, and that is the Realme GT 6T. The good news is that early reports reckon the performance there is tastier than a pickled onion sandwich. And this impressive bit of grunt work is backed by some recently leaked benchmarks which show some rather lovely numbers indeed. So the OnePlus Nord 4 should cope with prolonged Genshin sessions, no worries, and basically anything else that you chuck at the bugger. And all this leaky shenanigans also reckons that OnePlus has upgraded the battery tech for the Nord 4. So now you've got a mighty 5,500 mAh capacity cell stuffed inside that shiny chassis. Should be good enough to suit most demanding users. And it should also have 100-watt wired charging support, so you won't exactly be hanging around waiting for the bugger to charge back up. For the camera tech, expect a 50meg shooter with optical image stabilization, possibly the IMX890 again, same as the Nord 3. But the Nord 4 should also come packing a basic 8MP ultra-wide angle shooter rather than just a depth sensor and a crappy pointless macro effort. And of course the OnePlus Nord 4 will run the latest Color OS, so expect a similar experience to the new Oppo Reno 12 Pro, etc. And we'll hopefully get some of those nifty AI features too, including the one what reads web pages out loud.
Red hot hentai action, all holes filled with nasty tentacles. Sign in.
Shut up!
Red hot hentai action.
Shut up! Don't know how that popped up, some kind of bug I guess. Plus the helpful photo editing tools which rival some of Google's Pixely efforts, allowing you to create stickers out of anything or simply eliminate stuff from existence. Now, if only I could actually do that in real life to the Tory election tosspots who keep banging my knocker. And as I say, you can expect the Nord 4 to launch probably around sort of middle of July, hopefully go on sale pretty much immediately afterwards. And as for the asking price, probably about 500 GBP, same as the previous model. Hopefully get some lovely launch deals chucked in there too. So the Nord 4 certainly sounds pretty tempting on paper, some very tasty specs indeed, and hopefully bring a good bit of performance as well, which is something that the Oppo Reno 12 Pro was sadly lacking. But what do you lovely lot reckon? Are you tempted by a hot bit of Nord 4 action? Well, definitely let us know down in the comments below. And now it's time for the part of the show that's almost as irritating as finding a Tory lurking on your doorstep. It's viewer comments. Viewer comments.
All holes filled with nasty tentacles.
Shut up. Alright, smash through as many of these as possible, and then I'm going to go shower for about 5 weeks. Starting this week with Urban Fisher, who says, first to comment, any tech gift for me? Just the usual gift of insurmountable tech knowledge for wowing your friends and family at social gatherings. You're very bloody welcome. Thor Space Viking says, love you too, Uncle Spurt. Good old Thor Space Viking's cropped up on a few videos now. Cheers for commenting and watching and all that. Also, surely Space Viking has to be the name of an 80s hair metal band, right? Absolutely too curious not to check. Okay, there is a Space Viking who had an album back in 2014, 0 monthly listeners on Spotify. That just makes me feel sad. I've got to admit, this isn't quite what I expected. Okay, it's definitely not 80s metal, and I absolutely now understand, having listened to it, why they've got 0 monthly listeners. And next up, Fathead Dave says, 1.14 million subscribers, fair play Uncle Spurt. Been here since about 300k, I think. Cheers very much, Fathead Dave. You're undoubtedly amongst the noblest of the sizably headed folk. Handlebar says, I'm British but I live in Taiwan. I use you to teach my son proper English. I mean, Jesus, Jeffing Christ, how terrifying. The Taiwanese kids running around in the playground calling each other cockwombles in a Macam accent. I mean, I really should put a disclaimer at the start of every video, don't let kids anywhere near me. Not for any Rolf Harris type reasons, I'd just like to point out. It's probably just better if the next generation don't all speak like an alcoholic northern tosspot. Hey, whoa, says it's 11:28 p.m. and I am ducking sleepy. Love your content, bro. Well, thanks very much for watching, buddy, and hope you didn't pull an all-nighter watching this shower of shit. Definitely get your beauty kip and all that. Alessandro Balestrini says, have you ever tried cooking a lasagna in a toaster? I have not, no, but I did once try cooking oven chips in a toaster in a moment of extreme desperation back in the day. Was I drunk? Well, I don't honestly see the relevance in that, Your Honour, but yes, I might have potentially partaken in a few shandies in the local brew house just a few hours previous. And for anyone who's curious, the whole chips in the toaster thing definitely did not work. It was kind of like chewing ice wrapped in charcoal. Lasagna, I would imagine, would be an absolute disaster as well. That could get very sloppy indeed. But, you know, if this whole tech YouTube thing doesn't really work out for me, well, I can always try doing that instead. Pretty banging idea for a YouTube channel, actually. What can you cook in a toaster? Now, last week's online news type video was all about the fresh new CMF Phone 1, which should be launching imminently, as well as, of course, some upcoming Lumia handsets that have leaked. So plenty of correspondence on that, kicking off with Keo AMVs, who says, Lumia in a blind everyone around you yellow colour, plus a headphone jack. What more could you ask for? And Bismarck agrees, saying, it's nice to see those bright-ass colour phones. 100%, you know, life is just a massive clag nut. It's bloody irritating and it stinks pretty bad, but nothing that can't be brightened up a bit by your colourful wee blower. GMJ says, finally a Lumia running Android. That's what we wanted from the start. If Nokia had have said yes to Google instead of going with Microsoft, I reckon they'd be bigger than Samsung right now. And similar from Paul Swartout as well, who says he actually worked for Nokia and was heavily involved with the Lumia and the Asha phones. Loved them and missed them. If we dived into the Android pool rather than the Windows puddle, pretty sure that Nokia and Lumia would still be around. And yeah, part of the problem is exactly what David WW1991 points out. Says he had 2 at uni, my first ever contract phones, and I loved them, although the lack of apps wasn't good. And yeah, it's hard not to agree that it was the Windows Phone side of things that really held the Lumias back, and not because of the UI. I liked all the tidy shenanigans, I thought that was rather cool, but unfortunately it's the lack of apps on the app market or whatever it was called was just f***ing dire. Unfortunately, a similar situation to what Huawei faces these days, like Harmony OS, absolutely fine, get on with that perfectly well, but no googly action is just a massive ball ache. The Those balls, they are hurting. Mark Porter says, I wish HMD would bring back the Nokia N series. Aye, definitely, they're ripe for a proper reboot. And also, how long before they do us another N-Gage? Surely, I mean, that's just an obvious one, right? Handhelds are so popular right now, and I can't take the bloody Steam Deck away with me on trips because it's roughly the size of a Vauxhall Vectra. Needs something nice and dinky that I can just pop in and, you know, play a good bit of Super Monkey Ball or whatever. That said, I do recommend the Evercade efforts. Like, so the Evercade EXP and the good old Super Pocket as well, they both take the Evercade cartridges. Cracking if you want to stash some classics in your pants for those long trips. Alrighty, Ron Anguna says, I think the front of the Lumia reboot renders look great for modern day times with that squared off build versus the curved screen corners, but those camera bumps really give me the ick and look like an afterthought. Really, they should go with one of the classic big old round camera bumps like the Lumia 1020 had. Obviously quite fashionable again these days, like the Honor Magics, Replicate, all that. Next up, Matthias Gedesber. I'm sorry if I completely mauled the pronunciation of that. I would blame it on the jet lag, but I'm just generally f***ing hopeless. He's looking forward to the CMF phone, but he does say, I wish their logo at least had the glyph illumination. And Utabedo says, I would go with the CMF Phone 1. I like the Nothing phones, but I don't like the lights. It makes the phone feel like it was made by Fisher-Price. Aye, fair play, can't really argue with that, although if the CMF Phone 1's got all these spinny dials and stuff on it, it also kind of runs the risk of looking like a toddler's toy. Chubby Panda says, if that CMF phone has a massive rotatory knob but no headphone jack, then they wasted an opportunity. And Shifty says, the dial on the CMF phone reminds me of an old Sony phone, the CMF J70 I think. Can't remember that one, but it is very possible that I've just drunk away that particular memory. He continues, also a new cocktail for you, bear with me, Jack Daniels and ginger beer. I call it the Ed Sheeran. I'm not sure about the name, I don't think I really want to slurp on an Ed Sheeran, but the actual combination sounds cracking. It's basically like a JD Dark and Stormy, right? David Brown says, my first Windows phone was an HTC HD2. That was an absolute banger of an old blower, definitely. I do love rereading all reviews of these phones as well. Absolutely enormous 4.3-inch screen, an animated weather widget. Oh, Mythic Sun says Space Raiders has left the chat. Yeah, I mean, yeah, as far as 10p bags of crisps go, they were pretty bloody good. Of course, I'm assuming a packet these days, if they're even still around, probably costs about £1.50. Remember, I always preferred the Pickled Onion Monster Munch to the Pickled Onion Space Raiders, but I think they had a pretty decent chili type spicy flavour, right? Roy Royale says, 8 months later and the Sonos Move is still there, assuming it's a glowing review. Aye, it's a good one. Definitely cracking quality, good battery life on it, nice easy touch controls just sat there on top. Bugger's never actually bothered to send me their new headphones, of course, but I've heard they're a bit shit anyway, so hey ho. Osiris Hayuri says, yo, I'm from the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago. I need to just go to bed, really. To be exact, all I'm asking for is a shout out in that funny accent you've got. Yeah, shouting out to you in my peculiar twang, good buddy, hope all is well. And yeah, I swear to God, one day I'm absolutely going to do that Uncle Spud Goes Wild in the Caribbean special. Better make this the last one before I actually just face plant the floor. Charlie Line says, if you want to spend the night with my mum, Uncle Spurt, you're gonna need a Ouija board. Have you ever had that sleep paralysis thing where you wake up and there's some absolutely hideous, deformed, terrifying ghost thing just stood there at the bottom of your bed and you can't move or scream or do anything? Well, imagine that, except the ghost is actually noshing you out. Anyway, wasn't that fun, kiddies? No? Oh, f*** you then. Ho ho ho, just Josh, and a massive thank you as always for watching this shower of utter shit to the very bitter end. Please do type some stuff down below on either the Nord 4 or just whatever the bloody hell you fancy banging on about, and we'll try and smash our way through as many of those as possible next week. And speaking of next week, next week, what the f*** is next week? And next week, it's apparently July. How the actual f*** did that happen? No big launches or anything scheduled for next week, at least none that your Uncle Spurt has been clued in about, but you can expect my full comprehensive review of this bendy bugger right here, the Motorola Razr 50 Ultra. Is it worth splashing out for, or should you wait for that Galaxy Z Flip action instead? And got a few other little tech things toasting there in the background as well. So yeah, certainly plenty of stuff to warm the cockles of your heart. Yippee hooray. I am actually just talking complete and utter bollocks now, not much different from the normal, but yeah, I really do need to go wash. So have yourselves a bloody wonderful weekend, everyone, and see you next week. Cheers, I love you.